In order to confine approximately 160,000 residents in Spain's northeastern Catalonia region was lifted on Saturday following a significant fire at an industrial estate that generated a toxic cloud of chlorine. This incident highlights the potential dangers associated with chemical fires and their immediate impact on public safety and emergency response efforts. The fire erupted early Saturday morning at a swimming pool cleaning products company in Vilanova i la Geltrú, located roughly 48 kilometers south of Barcelona. Local authorities reported that the blaze started at approximately 2:20 a.m. local time, creating a hazardous plume of chlorine smoke that prompted emergency officials to advise residents to remain indoors. Hours later, as the situation was brought under control, the Civil Protection Service lifted the order, allowing residents to safely exit their homes after confirming that no injuries occurred. Authorities communicated directly with residents in 5 nearby towns, warning them via text message to stay inside until the situation was resolved. The owner of the industrial property indicated that the fire's cause might be linked to a lithium battery, highlighting the complexities inherent in managing chemical hazards. While normal operations faced disruptions, including halted train services and canceled events, civil protection officials assured the public that the fire was under control. This incident serves as a reminder of the challenges faced by emergency services when responding to industrial fires, particularly those involving hazardous materials. That concludes this hour of Soundly Human Newsroom. The news continues in 60 seconds.
Live from the Soundly Human Newsroom in the AWS cloud, this is Soundly Human Newsroom with Ruth Sterling.
Welcome to Soundly Human Newsroom. I am Ruth Sterling, bringing you the latest updates from across the globe. We begin with our top story, centering on an alarming telecommunications outage that disrupted air traffic control in the Philadelphia region, impacting air travel at Newark Liberty International Airport. The Federal Aviation Administration reported that the outage caused radar and communication systems to go dark for approximately 90 seconds early Friday morning, complicating the navigation of flights in the area. According to recorded audio from air traffic controllers, a FedEx flight departing for Boston was notably affected, with controllers instructing the pilot to switch frequencies due to the blackout. This incident adds to a troubling trend of technical failures within the U.S. air traffic control system, notably following a similar but more severe outage that occurred on April 28, which resulted in major disruptions and staffing challenges. As air travel faces mounting obstacles, including bad weather and runway construction delays at Newark, this latest incident raises significant concerns about passenger safety and operational reliability. The Department of Transportation's announcement just days ago regarding an overhaul of the air traffic control system highlights the urgency to address these recurring issues in air traffic management. Ellen DeGeneres, the comedian and former talk show host, is garnering attention for a light-hearted video she posted on her verified Instagram account. In this clip, DeGeneres showcases a humorous moment riding a lawnmower on her estate in the United Kingdom, a country she relocated to in November 2024. The video follows the "how it started, how it's going" trend, capturing her adventurous spirit, which turns comical when the mower breaks down, requiring assistance to push it. This playful moment comes at a time when DeGeneres, who gained widespread popularity with her daytime show, has been navigating a complex transition in her career. The Ellen DeGeneres Show concluded in 2022 after significant backlash regarding allegations from former staff members about workplace intimidation and racism. Addressing these concerns, DeGeneres openly apologized to her team in July 2020, expressing disappointment that her vision for the show, a space of positivity and respect, had been compromised. 2 years later, DeGeneres is finding ways to redefine her public image, embracing her life in the UK, and sharing moments of levity with her audience. Her recent Netflix comedy special, Ellen's Last Stand Up, reflects on her journey, blending humor with her experiences in the entertainment industry. As she moves forward, DeGeneres appears committed to balancing personal joy with public scrutiny, as evidenced by her light-hearted social media presence and ongoing creative projects. The emergence of Robert Prevost as Pope Leo XIV marks a historic moment, as he becomes the first pontiff born in the United States, an event that holds significance not only for the Catholic community, but also for the broader landscape of religious leadership worldwide. Prevost's connection to Chicago and his deep-rooted history in the Church provide a unique context for understanding how his upbringing may shape his papacy. On Thursday, the announcement of white smoke from the Sistine Chapel signaled that a new pope had been selected, marking an extraordinary milestone for Prevost's family and friends. His brother John shared a light-hearted exchange following the announcement, revealing a glimpse of their enduring bond amidst the newly heightened public interest in the Pope's life. Although the recognition has attracted media attention to Chicago, John mentioned that Robert remains committed to his connections back home, expressing both pride and bittersweet emotions about his brother's ascension to the papacy. Robert Prevost's journey to this esteemed position was evident from an early age. Raised in a Catholic household in Chicago, he displayed a clear dedication to his faith, attending seminary school and later studying at Villanova University and the Catholic Theological Union in Chicago. His work as a missionary in Peru has left a lasting impact, where he led social initiatives and dedicated efforts to the community. Those who know him describe a humility that complements his strong administrative capabilities in Rome, suggesting that he aims to honor the legacy of his predecessor, Pope Francis, while forging his own path. As Pope Leo XIV, he not only holds spiritual authority over 1.4 billion Catholics, but also possesses a unique connection to contemporary social issues, perhaps influenced by his diverse experiences in both the US and Peru. His selection raises questions about how he will navigate the complexities of modern leadership, particularly in the context of American society and its political landscape, where he is known to have engaged with issues relevant to both the Church and the nation. The impact of his election is already being felt, as his philosophy aligns with a broader vision of inclusivity and social awareness, particularly regarding marginalized communities. This connection may hold potential for new dialogues within the Church and across international borders, positioning Pope Leo XIV as a significant figure in the future of Catholicism. Trade negotiations between the United States and China have made headlines as President Donald Trump announced what he claims to be great progress during recent discussions in Switzerland. This development is significant not only for the two countries, but for the global economy, as the US and China are the world's largest economic powers, and their trade policies have far-reaching implications. On Saturday, Trump took to Truth Social to express his satisfaction with the meetings held in Geneva, stating, "A total reset negotiated in a friendly but constructive manner." The discussions involved key U.S. officials, including Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, alongside Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng. While a source familiar with the talks has confirmed that discussions would continue into Sunday, Bessent had previously moderated expectations, signaling that significant breakthroughs were unlikely. Trade relations between the two nations have soured as a result of heavy tariffs, currently a minimum of 145% on most Chinese imports, and 125% on U.S. goods. Analysts suggest that a drastic reduction of tariffs is essential for restoring normal trade levels, with a proposed 50% cut cited as critical by economists. Meanwhile, the ongoing tariffs have begun to significantly impact consumer prices in the U.S., with analysts expecting inflation to rise sharply by year-end. As imports from China dwindle, predicted to drop substantially in the coming years, potential economic ramifications loom large. The National Retail Federation anticipates a 20% decline in overall imports, with projections for Chinese goods dropping even more dramatically, by as much as 80%. This comes in tandem with reports of contraction in China's manufacturing sector, driving Beijing to seek economic stimulus measures. In addition to trade discussions, Trump indicated plans to address the situation of jailed Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai during these negotiations. Lai's case underscores broader issues regarding freedom of the press and civil liberties in Hong Kong, and could further complicate the diplomatic landscape. As these talks continue, the world will be closely monitoring the outcomes, particularly given the intertwined fortunes of the U.S. and Chinese economies. Sean Diddy Combs is facing significant legal challenges as he prepares for a federal criminal trial in Manhattan, following grave allegations of abuse and trafficking made against him. This case has garnered national and international attention, highlighting broader issues of accountability and justice within the entertainment industry. Recently, Combs was granted the key to New York City, coinciding with the release of his new album. However, just one day later, his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, filed a civil lawsuit accusing Combs of years of physical and emotional abuse, including serious accusations of sexual violence. Although the lawsuit was settled rapidly, this legal battle marks the beginning of a series of serious claims against the music mogul. Over the past 2 years, multiple individuals have accused him of misconduct, and federal agents have conducted extensive investigations, leading to charges against Combs that could result in a life sentence if convicted. With a lengthy career, Combs has been a prominent figure in music and culture, founding Bad Boy Records and earning numerous accolades. However, his descent from celebrated artist to accused criminal has unfolded over a timeline of disturbing revelations, including a 2016 hotel surveillance video that depicted an instance of physical abuse toward Ventura. As Combs faces 5 charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking, the trial represents a critical moment not just for him, but also for the countless other voices seeking justice in similar circumstances. As the trial approaches, Cassie Ventura is expected to testify for the prosecution. The courtroom will likely see the presentation of both testimony and evidence, including controversial footage of Combs' actions, impacting how the case is perceived, and raising questions about accountability for figures in positions of power. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has reached a critical juncture, as European leaders present a proposal aimed at forcing a response from the Kremlin regarding a potential ceasefire. This decision is pivotal not only for Ukraine's immediate future, but also for broader European security, highlighting the geopolitical stakes at play as the war intensifies. In a concerted diplomatic effort, leaders from Ukraine, France, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Poland are urging a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, initially suggested by the United States, in hopes of initiating meaningful peace talks. The proposal comes at a time when Russia is expected to increase its military offensives, complicating the already tenuous situation on the front lines. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, along with French President Emmanuel Macron and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, have emphasized that a ceasefire must precede any negotiations, a stance that the Kremlin has yet to agree upon fully. President Vladimir Putin's response adds further complexity, as he has reiterated doubts about Ukraine's adherence to previous ceasefires while suggesting the need for direct talks. However, he has avoided clearly committing to the ceasefire proposal, instead opting for ambiguous statements that allow for continued aggression. This indecision places the burden on Ukraine and its allies to navigate potential pitfalls, as they prepare their forces amidst uncertainty. The involvement of the United States remains crucial, with European leaders urging for increased monitoring and enforcement of any ceasefire arrangements. Questions remain about the capabilities of the U.S. to oversee compliance along the vast and violent front lines, raising concerns about the effectiveness of any potential agreement. The consequences of failing to establish a solid truce could be dire. Not only may Ukraine lose vital ground, but fragmented support from the U.S. risks emboldening Russia further. As time is of the essence, Europe faces the challenge of demonstrating to the Biden administration that a robust response to Russian violations is necessary. The cooperative display of unity from key European nations during this pivotal moment emphasizes the collective resolve to maintain pressure on the Kremlin, despite the heavy costs of continued conflict. The coming weeks will reveal whether this diplomatic maneuvering can chart a path toward peace or exacerbate the ongoing war, as leaders strive to clarify their stance on Putin's willingness to reconcile. Western nations, led by the United States, are escalating their pressure on Russia to agree to a proposed 30-day truce in Ukraine. This push has immense implications for global stability, as it aims to halt a conflict that has resulted in significant humanitarian crises and geopolitical tensions. U.S. President Donald Trump issued a firm statement threatening additional sanctions against Moscow if it continues to reject the ceasefire proposal. The United Kingdom, France, Poland, and Germany are set to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv on Saturday to discuss strategies for increasing pressure on Russia's military actions. These leaders aim to influence Russia to accept a ceasefire and pave the way towards a lasting resolution. The background of this situation stems from ongoing diplomatic efforts, with Trump prioritizing an end to the hostilities since returning to office in January. Despite multiple high-level meetings between U.S. and Russian officials, efforts to negotiate a truce have faced setbacks. Recent remarks from Ukraine's leadership indicate that an announcement regarding the ceasefire details could be forthcoming, as Zelensky rallies support from Western allies against Russia's aggression. French President Emmanuel Macron has echoed calls for immediate action, emphasizing the need for unity among European nations and a firm response should Russia refuse to comply with the ceasefire initiative. As discussions intensify in Kyiv, the international community watches closely, hopeful for a breakthrough that could lead to peace in a region under siege for far too long. The U.S. Postal Service Board of Governors has announced that David Steiner, currently a board member at FedEx, will become the next Postmaster General. This appointment raises significant concerns as it comes amid fears of increased privatization efforts for the USPS, a vital service that employs approximately 635,000 workers nationwide. Steiner's selection follows the abrupt resignation of former Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, who stepped down in March after a controversial 5-year tenure that included overseeing the agency through the pandemic, financial struggles, and a surge in mail-in ballots during the elections. Steiner has expressed a commitment to upholding the independence of the Postal Service, stating, "I deeply admire the public service and business mission of this amazing institution." However, skepticism remains, particularly from lawmakers who have accused the Trump administration of attempting to install a loyalist in the postmaster role. Notably, Representative Jerry Connolly, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, warned that Steiner's ongoing ties to FedEx represent a potential conflict of interest given that FedEx is a competitor to the USPS. The National Association of Letter Carriers echoed these concerns, stating that Steiner's appointment may lead to an aggressive shift toward privatizing the mail system, jeopardizing the interests of American consumers. Steiner is set to formally take over the role in July after resigning from FedEx's board of directors. The landscape of the USPS remains precarious, particularly as President Trump has previously proposed significant changes aimed at restructuring the agency, including the possibility of placing it under the oversight of the Secretary of Commerce. With pressures mounting from both political figures and union representatives, the future of the Postal Service and its independence may be at a critical crossroads. High-stakes nuclear negotiations between Iran and the United States have concluded, leaving both parties expressing a willingness to continue discussions. This development is significant as it occurs against a backdrop of heightened tensions regarding Iran's nuclear program, which poses broader implications for regional and global security. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Baghaway indicated that the talks were difficult but useful, emphasizing that they facilitated a better understanding of each side's positions. The U.S. also conveyed a positive outlook, with a senior official describing the discussions as encouraging and noting that they spanned more than 3 hours. Agreement was reached to pursue further dialogue aimed at addressing technical elements connected to Iran's nuclear capabilities. This round of talks represents the highest-level engagement in years, though concrete progress remains elusive. The central sticking point continues to be Iran's insistence on its right to enrich uranium, a demand that the U.S. considers a non-negotiable red line. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff reiterated the American position, stating there can be no uranium enrichment in Iran going forward. Meanwhile, Iranian officials have asserted that their nuclear ambitions are strictly peaceful, contrary to U.S. concerns. The discussions, facilitated by Omani mediation, included proposals for an honorable agreement, but both parties must consult their respective leaders before scheduling the next meeting. No specific date has been established, as the situation remains fluid. Notably, U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened military action against Iranian nuclear sites should diplomatic efforts falter, further denting hopes for a resolution. As the situation evolves, the international community will be closely monitoring the upcoming rounds of negotiations and their potential impact on global nuclear non-proliferation efforts. The legal community and the nation are reflecting on the life and legacy of former Supreme Court Justice David Souter, whose death was announced by the Supreme Court on Friday. Souter, initially appointed by President George H.W. Bush in 1990 as a conservative jurist, ultimately revealed a commitment to constitutional privacy, individual equality, and the separation of church and state that often placed him at odds with his political origins. Notably, Souter's most significant contribution came in 1992, when he played a crucial role in upholding Roe v. Wade in the landmark case Planned Parenthood v. Casey. Souter emphasized the importance of the court's legitimacy, stating, "The court's concern for legitimacy is not for the sake of the court, but for the sake of the nation to which it is responsible." This decision marked a pivotal moment in the ongoing national dialogue surrounding abortion rights and laid the groundwork for future court rulings. His tenure on the bench spanned 19 years, during which he became known not only for his judicial decisions, but also for his unique character as a lifelong bachelor who eschewed the Washington social scene in favor of a quiet life in New Hampshire. Souter's impressive legal mind and amiable spirit endeared him to colleagues, including Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who remarked on his deep love of literature and the beauty it imparted. Despite being viewed initially as a conservative, Souter's decisions increasingly aligned with a more liberal perspective, generating resentment among right-wing advocates and reshaping expectations for future Republican appointees. His reluctance to discuss his past rulings, including the pivotal Casey decision, underscores his belief in the integrity of the judiciary, aiming to maintain focus on the law rather than personal advocacy. Souter's legacy remains impactful, particularly in how he slowed the anticipated conservative shift in the Supreme Court, leaving a nuanced and thoughtful approach to the institution's role in American society. Following his retirement in 2009, his contributions and principled stances continue to resonate amid today's legal battles and debates. House Republicans are moving forward with significant proposed changes to federal workers' retirement benefits, a development that could have profound implications for the federal workforce. This initiative comes on the heels of ongoing efforts to downsize the federal workforce and presents a potentially severe challenge for government employees nationwide. The House Oversight Committee has approved a plan aimed at generating $50 billion in savings over the next decade from the retirement system. According to the policy director of the American Federation of Government Employees, Jacqueline Simon, the proposed changes will increase contribution rates while simultaneously reducing the benefits workers receive. The adjustments could prompt many eligible federal employees to retire early in an effort to secure their current benefits before any potential changes take effect. This push to alter federal retirement benefits isn't new. It aligns with long-standing Republican objectives to reform the pension system, a goal previously championed by former President Donald Trump. However, the current political climate suggests that these reforms may find greater traction this time around. The proposed package, characterized by Representative James Comer as a means to save taxpayer money, faces a critical path ahead, requiring approval from both the House and the Senate. Within the plan, one of the most impactful measures would raise the federal employees' retirement system contribution rate for many current employees to 4.4%. Additionally, it proposes eliminating supplemental payments for new retirees who are under the age of 62. Another change includes basing pension calculations on the highest 5 earning years instead of the previous 3, which could decrease annual benefits significantly. Notably, certain employees, including those in law enforcement and air traffic control, would be exempt from some of these provisions, but would still face limitations regarding supplemental payments. The proposed reforms have sparked alarm among federal workers, particularly those nearing retirement. Union leaders emphasize the sense of betrayal felt by many employees who view these changes as a fundamental shift in the agreements made during their decades of service. Jessica Lapointe, president of the Afghaz Council 220, notes a growing urgency among staff at the Social Security Administration, where a significant portion of the workforce is already eligible for retirement. As these developments unfold, the potential impact on federal employees looms large, with significant concern about the future stability of retirement benefits for those who have committed their careers to public service. To our listeners in the United States and around the world, thanks for tuning into this hour of Soundly Human Newsroom. Newsroom continues right now.
Live from the Soundly Human Newsroom in the AWS cloud, this is Soundly Human Newsroom with Ruth Sterling.
Welcome to Soundly Human Newsroom. I am Ruth Sterling. Today, we begin with a significant development surrounding Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, who was arrested at a federal immigration detention center where he was protesting its recent opening. This incident is pivotal as it highlights tensions between local leaders and federal immigration policies, an ongoing national debate that could have implications for local governance and civil rights. Baraka was taken into custody after he attempted to join New Jersey Congress members in challenging the facility's operations, which he argues have violated building permit protocols. Following several hours in detention, he emerged to affirm his commitment to the community and criticized the divisive nature of current immigration practices. His wife, Linda Baraka, alleged that the federal government targeted her husband specifically to set an example. This case raises significant questions about the intersection of law enforcement and political activism, a matter that continues to resonate across the nation. Indirect talks between the United States and Iran regarding Tehran's nuclear program have been characterized as disingenuous by an Iranian official, who alleges that the interactions are a trap set by the U.S. to escalate tensions. This development holds significant implications for both national security and international diplomatic relations, as the ongoing negotiations could impact regional stability in the Middle East. The official, speaking anonymously to CNN, criticized the U.S. approach, suggesting that the weekly interruptions and gaps in discussions contravene Iran's preferred negotiation style and indicate a broader game being played by the American side. Iran is reportedly readying for the possibility of unsuccessful talks, underscoring a shift in posture amid concerns that current strategies may not lead to the desired sanctions relief or economic benefits. The context for these assertions comes after U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff warned that if discussions in Oman scheduled for Sunday do not yield productive results, the U.S. may opt to alter its strategy. A U.S. official emphasized President Trump's sincerity in seeking a deal and commitment to preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, while also advocating for a peaceful resolution in the region. A high-level meeting is anticipated on Sunday, although reports suggest that the technical negotiation team, which typically addresses specific issues like sanctions relief, will not participate. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi indicated that Tehran has received mixed signals from the U.S., as various officials convey differing messages, complicating the negotiation process. The Iranian official also noted that the U.S. responses have been vague and inconsistent, resulting in a lack of progress that has left Iran doubting the potential success of the talks. As both sides prepare for the crucial discussions, Iran maintains that uranium enrichment on its territory is a non-negotiable stance in the negotiations. This ongoing dialogue focuses solely on the nuclear issue, a pivot from earlier U.S. attempts to involve a wider range of topics concerning Iran's activities in the region. With sentiments now hardened on both sides, the outcome of these talks may determine the future trajectory of U.S.-Iran relations and broader geopolitical stability. A significant shift is underway in the beverage industry as THC-infused drinks gain popularity across the United States. This trend not only highlights changing consumer preferences, but also raises crucial questions regarding regulation and market growth within a rapidly evolving landscape. Since June of this year, John Halper has reported remarkable success with his THC beverage offerings at top 10 liquors in Minnesota, with these products now accounting for approximately 15% of overall sales. Halper described the initial sales surge as explosive, underscoring a broader shift in lifestyle choices among consumers, particularly those adopting what is termed a California sober lifestyle, prioritizing cannabis over alcohol. In fact, a recent study revealed that more Americans now use cannabis daily than consume alcohol. This surge in demand can be partially attributed to the 2018 Farm Bill, which enabled the legal sale of hemp-derived THC products with minimal oversight. As entrepreneurs rush to capitalize on these perceived opportunities, the rapid rise of the THC beverage market has prompted states to navigate the complexities of the existing legislation to establish their own regulations. The legal ambiguity regarding THC products, which are classified as a Schedule I controlled substance, poses significant challenges for companies entering this market, including access to funding and tax benefits. Market analysis indicates that the hemp-derived THC beverage sector has undergone explosive growth, with the total market value increasing from around $400,000 in 2020 to a projected $571 million by the end of this year. As this space expands, entrepreneurs and industry leaders are advocating for a balanced regulatory framework. Such a framework could help eliminate bad actors while allowing businesses to flourish. However, experts caution that the path forward may not be smooth. With the federal government's potential for intervention and the ongoing uncertainty surrounding the future direction of laws governing hemp products, the viability of the THC beverage industry remains uncertain. As states and industry stakeholders continue to navigate these uncharted waters, the outcomes will shape the future landscape of this fast-growing market. Tensions between India and Pakistan have reached a critical juncture as both nuclear-armed nations have engaged in clashes that could escalate into a larger conflict. The situation has gained international attention, particularly following a surprise announcement from former U.S. President Donald Trump. On Saturday, he claimed that the United States had facilitated a full and immediate ceasefire between the two adversaries, a marked shift from Vice President J.D. Vance's earlier statement labeling the conflict as none of our business. The escalation began following a terror attack in Indian-administered Kashmir last month, which resulted in the deaths of 26 individuals, primarily tourists. In retaliation, India conducted airstrikes, and Pakistan subsequently claimed to have downed 5 Indian Air Force jets, though India has denied these losses. As hostilities intensified, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed that he and Vance engaged with both nations' political and military leaders to prevent further escalation. Just hours prior to the ceasefire announcement, India's military action against Pakistani bases prompted a fierce counter-response from Pakistan, leading to rocket and drone strikes targeting Indian locations. While Pakistan commended U.S. involvement in brokering the ceasefire, India has characterized the agreement as a result of direct negotiations between the two countries, downplaying external influence. Despite the announced truce, reports of violations have already surfaced, including explosions in Kashmir and allegations of cross-border attacks. While the immediate fighting may have ceased, the underlying and long-standing issues, particularly concerning the disputed region of Kashmir, remain unresolved. The ceasefire may provide a temporary respite, but experts caution that without addressing these deep-rooted grievances, the likelihood of future conflicts between India and Pakistan remains high. The leaders of Germany, France, the United Kingdom, and Poland are pressing Russian President Vladimir Putin to agree to a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine, beginning Monday, or face the possibility of significant sanctions. This urgent appeal, made during a symbolic visit to Kyiv, underscores a growing international consensus on the need to de-escalate the conflict and open pathways for peace. Standing alongside Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, French President Emmanuel Macron delivered this message, which has garnered support from the White House following discussions with President Donald Trump. The four leaders emphasized that the ceasefire should encompass land, air, and sea operations. Macron stated that a successful ceasefire could facilitate immediate negotiations for a sustainable peace, marking a pivotal moment in the ongoing conflict. However, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov acknowledged Russia's resistance to external pressures, while indicating that Putin has a general inclination towards a ceasefire, though he suggested there are critical questions regarding the proposal. The urgency of the European leaders' demand puts Putin under immense pressure to respond within a rapidly approaching timeframe, all while establishing a framework for monitoring compliance. The leaders' visit included a tribute to fallen Ukrainian soldiers, followed by discussions on strategies to unify international efforts against Russian aggression. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha described a recent phone call with Trump as fruitful, highlighting continued U.S. support for Ukraine's ceasefire request. With ongoing attacks reported along frontline positions, the stakes are high, as Ukraine seeks immediate relief from hostilities. The Kremlin, for its part, continues to explore unilateral ceasefires, yet recent intelligence from the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv warns of potential significant airstrikes in the coming days. This situation remains complex, with broader implications for European security and international relations. President Donald Trump's recent announcement regarding U.S. tariffs on China has taken many by surprise and could significantly impact ongoing trade negotiations. This situation is particularly important as it reflects not only the U.S.-China relationship, but also broader global economic dynamics as nations watch closely for any signs of resolution. Just hours after Trump's trade negotiating team departed for crucial talks in Geneva, the president suggested he might reduce the current 145% tariffs on Chinese goods to 80%. While this move appears to be a reversal, it is understood that internal discussions among U.S. officials had already contemplated such actions prior to this announcement, leading to mixed reactions from both his team and Chinese negotiators. Trump's comments, which subtly elevated Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's position within the negotiations, have been viewed as an indication that the president may be negotiating with himself. However, U.S. officials remain focused on the ultimate decisions resting with Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The talks, which are expected to span 2 days, will address several economic issues, including the re-establishment of the Phase 1 trade deal and concerns regarding fentanyl production. The context of the negotiations is critical, as White House officials have characterized the discussions with China as distinct from parallel trade agreements with other nations. This ongoing bifurcation showcases a strategic effort to leverage these talks for favorable concessions from China, set against a timeline influenced by recent decisions to postpone certain tariff rates temporarily. Significantly, both sides have prepared for these discussions with an air of professionalism and respect following previous tensions, marking a potential shift in the tone of U.S.-China relations. The inclusion of senior figures in the negotiations from both countries raises hopes for serious dialogue, despite the complexities involved. As both nations seek common ground amidst a turbulent economic backdrop, the world watches to see if this pivotal moment will lead to lasting agreements or further entrench the trade divide. Sean Duffy, who recently marked 100 days as Secretary of the Department of Transportation, has expressed that he holds one of the most crucial roles in government, particularly as it pertains to ensuring the safety of American travelers. This story is significant not only for its immediate implications for air travel safety, but also for the broader challenges facing the U.S. aviation infrastructure. Duffy's tenure began just as tragedy struck. The day after he took office, the deadliest U.S. airplane crash in nearly 2 decades occurred at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, claiming 67 lives. Reflecting on this incident, Duffy emphasized the urgency of addressing safety concerns within the aviation sector. He noted, "As I thought about that, I thought about what else is out there that could bring us another situation like DCA, and if I could, I'd prevent it." Despite having limited experience in transportation prior to his appointment, Duffy is now spearheading a bold 3-year plan to overhaul the nation's aging air traffic control system. This comprehensive initiative aims to introduce 25,000 new radios, 475 voice switches, 618 new radar units, and establish 6 new air traffic control centers, all projected to be operational by 2028. However, skepticism remains over whether such an ambitious timeline is feasible. Duffy has highlighted the necessity of congressional support for his plans, indicating that substantial funding in the tens of billions will be required to drive these reforms. He has urged lawmakers to streamline the permitting process to avoid bureaucratic delays that could hinder progress. In his words, "I can't do this by myself. I need them to give me the tools." Former Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao has praised Duffy's commitment to modernizing air traffic controls, while industry leaders, including those from major airlines, gathered in support of the initiative. They acknowledged the pressing need for upgrades to ensure ongoing safety in an industry facing significant challenges. With apparent bipartisan backing in Congress, Duffy aims to prevent the aviation safety issues of the past from recurring, stressing that swift action is paramount. "We don't want the effort to span generations," said Representative Rick Larson. "We just need to get moving on this sooner rather than later." Recent antitrust trials against tech giants Meta and Google reveal a significant shift in consumer behavior, highlighting the challenges faced by these established companies in retaining relevance in an evolving digital landscape. This story matters not only in the context of Silicon Valley innovation, but also for consumers worldwide navigating a rapidly changing technology ecosystem. During their testimonies, executives acknowledged a decline in traditional interactions on their platforms. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg reported a decrease in friend requests and content sharing on Facebook, with data indicating that only 32% of teenagers now use the platform, a steep drop from previous years. Concurrently, Eddie Q, Apple's senior vice president of services, disclosed that Google search traffic on Apple devices had dipped for the first time, suggesting a shift towards AI chatbots for information retrieval. These admissions spotlight the increasing pressure on tech companies as new social media apps and artificial intelligence continue to attract consumer attention. Market research firm Gartner has projected that search engine volume could fall by 25% by 2026, as users gravitate toward AI tools, underscoring the need for adaptation among these major players. Historically, Google and Meta built their empires around traditional functionalities. Google revolutionized search with its relevance-based ranking, while Meta transformed social interactions through engagement-driven feeds. However, as Zuckerberg noted, there's been a marked increase in direct messaging rather than public sharing, indicating a potential paradigm shift in how users connect. Furthermore, the future of smartphones, particularly the iPhone, was called into question during the trials. Q suggested that devices like the iPhone may not be essential in a decade, laying the groundwork for emerging technologies such as smart glasses that utilize AI to deliver information directly to users in a more integrated manner. As companies like Apple, Google, and Meta face these mounting challenges, their responses and adaptations will shape the next chapter of technology, pushing them to innovate while confronting the risks posed by emerging competitors and shifting consumer preferences. Newark Liberty International Airport has been at the center of a significant air traffic control crisis, impacting thousands of travelers amid a perfect storm of outdated technology and staffing shortages. As one of the nation's busiest airports, the consequences of this situation resonate far beyond New Jersey, raising concerns about the reliability of air travel as the summer season approaches. In recent weeks, Newark has faced thousands of flight delays and cancellations due to a series of technical failures in its air traffic control system. Notably, controllers lost contact with planes after a communications breakdown involving obsolete equipment reliant on floppy disks and copper wiring. Reports indicate that multiple air traffic controllers have since taken trauma leave, underscoring the severe stress caused by the situation. Experts describe the loss of communication as the most dangerous situation you could have, highlighting the risks inherent in an increasingly antiquated system. The crisis began with an outage that occurred on April 28, when communications functions failed at a Philadelphia facility responsible for managing Newark's airspace. This backup system, which was transferred from a Long Island facility, has experienced repeated failures, raising alarms about the dependability of the airborne infrastructure. Over 1,000 flights were canceled as a precaution when radar and communication capabilities failed for a brief but critical period. Experts warn that a resolution is not imminent. The U.S. Department of Transportation has announced a 3-year plan to overhaul the air traffic control system, proposing significant upgrades to core infrastructure. However, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy indicated that these improvements would not occur quickly, leaving passengers at Newark likely to experience continued disruptions, particularly during peak travel times like the 4th of July and Labor Day. Staffing levels are another layer of concern, with current numbers at a historic low. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association states the FAA is short on over 3,000 controllers, worsened by long hours and job stress causing further burnout. Meanwhile, Newark's busiest runway is closed for rehabilitation through mid-June, further complicating the airport's ability to manage flights amidst these ongoing technological and operational challenges. The unfolding situation at Newark highlights vulnerabilities affecting the broader U.S. aviation system, calling into question the reliability and safety of air travel as crucial infrastructure faces extensive and long-standing issues. Top U.S. officials have reported substantial progress in high-level trade negotiations with China, a development that could have significant implications for the global economy. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer emerged from 2 days of talks in Geneva, Switzerland, indicating that a deal has been reached following intense discussions, which follow the imposition of substantial tariffs by both nations. The negotiations come in the wake of President Donald Trump's decision to impose a sweeping 145% tariff on most Chinese goods last month, leading China to retaliate with 125% tariffs on U.S. products. Secretary Bessent described the talks as productive, suggesting that the differences between the two countries may not have been as substantial as previously thought. Greer echoed this sentiment, stating that efforts made during the discussions are vital in working towards resolving the ongoing national emergency declared by the president related to the tariffs. Despite the optimism, details of the agreement are yet to be released, with the Treasury Department promising further clarification on Monday. The timing of these negotiations is critical, as they represent a pivotal moment in U.S.-China relations, which have been strained by tariffs that have drastically reduced imports from China by 60%. Market analysts indicate that a reduction in tariffs by half could be necessary to restore some level of normalcy to trade. The broader economic landscape reveals that these tariffs have already started to exert upward pressure on consumer prices in the United States, with Goldman Sachs analysts projecting inflation may double to 4% by year's end due to the ongoing trade war. A decline in imports is expected to escalate further, with projections suggesting a 20% decrease year-over-year in the second half of 2025. This contraction is anticipated to hit Chinese imports even harder, predicted to plummet by up to 80%. The implications of these ongoing negotiations extend beyond trade, impacting not only the economies of both nations, but also global markets reliant on the two largest economies in the world. 3 energy-rich Gulf Arab nations are strategically positioning themselves ahead of President Donald Trump's upcoming visit, seeking to transform their influence into significant economic and political gains. As Trump prepares for his first state visit of his second term, scheduled to start in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, followed by stops in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, the significance of these meetings extends beyond mere diplomacy and into the realm of substantial financial investments and security agreements. Amid Trump's transactional approach to foreign policy, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE have enthusiastically pledged trillions in investments in the United States, while also aiming to solidify their roles as essential partners in resolving key conflicts, including those in Gaza, Ukraine, and Iran. Senior fellow Hassan al-Hassan noted that these Gulf states are keen to ensure that their interests align with Trump's agenda, particularly as they respond to a perceived waning of U.S. attention under President Biden. The shift towards Trump has sparked hopes of securing enhanced U.S. security commitments as well as lucrative economic deals. Each country has tailored objectives for the meetings. Saudi Arabia is looking for reassurances on U.S. security and a renewed commitment to military alliances, especially after previous defense agreements stalled over tensions related to Israeli-Palestinian relations. Meanwhile, it seeks cooperation on a civil nuclear program despite concerns over uranium enrichment. The UAE plans to leverage its wealth to solidify ties through a massive $1.4 trillion investment strategy aimed at diversifying its economy, particularly in sectors like AI and semiconductors. Qatar, holding the status of a major non-NATO ally, intends to further its military cooperation with the U.S. and assert its role as a mediator in regional conflicts, including sensitive discussions on Syria. The potential outcomes of this trip could reshape U.S. Gulf relations and impact strategic commitments in the region. With key bilateral deals on the table, the president's visit stands as a critical juncture for both the Gulf nations and the U.S. in navigating a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. A key federal prosecutor involved in the classified documents case against former President Donald Trump is set to privately testify before the House Judiciary Committee in the coming days. This development is significant as it underscores ongoing tensions between congressional Republicans and the Department of Justice, reflecting broader political and legal battles that could influence the upcoming presidential election. Jay Bratt, a former national security prosecutor who led the case against Trump for allegedly taking classified documents from the White House and resisting attempts to retrieve them, is expected to provide his deposition on May 14. While the case itself was dismissed, it has continued to shape perceptions of Trump's actions after his presidency. Sources indicate that Trump's legal team felt Bratt had not shown the requisite respect toward a former president during the investigation. As Republicans intensify their scrutiny of the Department of Justice's inquiries into Trump, the House Judiciary Committee has been seeking Bratt's testimony for some time. With investigations into Trump now concluding and his candidacy for the White House re-emerging, congressional Republicans appear more poised to secure documents and testimony from various government officials. This comes amid the committee's recent interviews with other officials, including a prosecutor from the Department of Justice's Tax Division, relevant to investigations involving Hunter Biden. The intersection of these investigations and the revival of Donald Trump's political ambitions presents a complex landscape that will likely influence both public perception and legislative priorities in the months ahead. A critical escalation in the ongoing conflict between India and Pakistan prompted heightened diplomatic engagement from the United States this past week. The situation is significant not only due to the long-standing tensions between these nuclear-armed neighbors, but also because of the potential global repercussions should these conflicts spiral further out of control. On Friday, U.S. officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, responded to urgent intelligence indicating a high risk of escalation. With concerns mounting about the possibility of armed conflict, Vice President Vance reached out directly to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, urging him to communicate with Pakistan in pursuit of de-escalation strategies. The Vice President emphasized the need for dialogue to prevent further military confrontation over the weekend, highlighting a potential pathway that both countries could consider. In the days leading up to the call, U.S. officials had attempted to encourage direct talks between India and Pakistan, as both nations were not communicating effectively. Rubio's outreach began earlier in the week as U.S. diplomats sought to open channels for a ceasefire, though specific agreements were left to the nations themselves to negotiate. The dialogue culminated in a ceasefire announcement following intense fighting on Saturday, where President Trump confirmed the cessation of hostilities through social media. The Trump administration's involvement has drawn mixed reactions. While Pakistan expressed gratitude for U.S. diplomatic efforts, India has been more reserved, emphasizing that discussions were held directly with Pakistan without foreign interference. This divergence in responses is reflective of the country's historical stance on international involvement. As the situation develops, the details around the monitoring of the ceasefire remain to be finalized, signaling that while a pause in hostilities has been achieved, the need for ongoing dialogue and negotiation persists in a region marked by complexity and deep-rooted grievances. 3 Democratic lawmakers are alleging intimidation by the Department of Homeland Security, following a turbulent encounter outside an Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Newark, New Jersey. The ramifications of this incident extend beyond state lines, raising significant concerns about the treatment of elected officials and the limits of oversight in immigration enforcement. Reps. Bonnie Watson-Coleman, LaMonica McIver, and Robert Menendez Jr. expressed their frustrations in a recent appearance on CNN, detailing the events from Friday when Newark Mayor Ras Baraka was detained after attempting to enter the facility with the lawmakers. Watson-Coleman stated that while the party was there to fulfill their congressional oversight duties, ICE officials provided them with misleading information before escalating the situation that led to Baraka's detention, though he was released after several hours. The lawmakers emphasized that their rights to access such facilities are protected under federal law, which allows congressional oversight of immigration facilities. However, tensions surged when a DHS official suggested that the lawmakers themselves could face arrest. DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin supported this claim, alleging that body camera footage captured members of Congress engaging in physical altercations with ICE officers. The lawmakers have vigorously denied these accusations, with McIver stating there is no evidence to substantiate claims that she assaulted any officer. Watson-Coleman characterized the incident as indicative of a larger trend of weaponizing law enforcement against public officials, and expressed alarm over public fear stemming from these aggressive tactics. She underscored the troubling implications of this behavior, suggesting it undermines democratic oversight and contributes to an intimidating environment for those engaged in their lawful duties. The unfolding situation continues to draw national attention as reactions from the DHS and further insights from the lawmakers are anticipated. Mother's Day is proving to be a challenging period for American florists this year, as rising costs linked to tariffs are prompting many consumers to reconsider their floral purchases. This development is significant not only to the floral industry, but also reflects broader economic tensions affecting American spending habits. As florists prepare for one of their busiest sales seasons, they are grappling with increased import prices due to President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on flowers entering the United States. According to Allison Krivacek, owner of Hydrangea Bloom in Tiffin, Iowa, the sharp rise in prices is causing a noticeable decline in sales. She stated, "We have to charge more, and it's definitely affecting sales, which I totally get," indicating that many shoppers are feeling the pinch and adjusting their budgets accordingly. Data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture reveals that approximately 80% of all cut flowers sold in the United States are imported, predominantly from Colombia and Ecuador. The tariffs on these imports have led to some flowers, like Lisianthus, doubling in price, while roses have seen increases ranging from 10% to 50% compared to last year. The impact is reflected in a recent Lending Tree survey, which found that Mother's Day spending has dropped by 14% nationwide, as shoppers tighten their belts in response to the elevated costs. While the floral industry has historically relied on imports, there is a growing movement advocating for American-grown flowers, as noted by Deborah Prinsing, founder of the Slow Flower Society. She pointed out the inherent challenges faced by the U.S. floral market, which is caught in the complexities of international trade. Krivacek has also adapted her business strategy to meet these changes, sourcing more locally to mitigate rising costs while still facing a substantial year-over-year drop in demand, estimating a decline of approximately 30%. The Society of American Florists remains optimistic about the industry's resilience, noting that florists are strategically adjusting their operations to navigate the economic pressures. As they continue to cultivate relationships with growers and adapt their sourcing strategies, many, like Krivacek, remain hopeful that their businesses can endure these financial challenges. While Mother's Day celebrations persist, the shifting economic landscape presents a unique set of hurdles for the floral market this year. This weekend's episode of Saturday Night Live showcased a blend of heartfelt tribute and satire, highlighting not only cultural themes, but also political commentary that resonates with viewers across the nation. As Mother's Day approaches, the show's cold open featured cast members Kenan Thompson, Marcelo Hernandez, and Bowen Yang delivering a warm homage to their mothers, setting a sentimental tone. However, the atmosphere shifted dramatically when cast member James Austin Johnson, portraying former President Donald Trump, interrupted the tribute. Johnson opened with a humorous take on the newly elected Pope Leo XIV, poking fun at his age and Chicago roots with a quip, "We have an American Pope, Chicago style. No ketchup." He went on to comment on the Catholic Church, referencing a visit from Vice President J.D. Vance to the Vatican before the passing of Pope Francis last month, and stated, "We love Catholic, it's one of the stronger Christian organizations." The sketch took an even lighter turn with the appearance of former cast member Cicely Strong, reintroducing her recurring character Janine Perot, after her recent appointment as interim U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. Strong's playful repartee with Johnson included jokes about her legal credentials and a humorous nod to her well-known penchant for sending dishes back at restaurants. The episode, hosted by Walton Goggins and featuring Arcade Fire as the musical guest, illustrates SNL's continued relevance in addressing contemporary issues through comedy, engaging a diverse audience with reflections on motherhood, politics, and societal humor. The combination of tribute and satire presents a snapshot of cultural dynamics that resonate both nationally and internationally, reinforcing the show's place as a platform for both entertainment and commentary. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has announced the approval of 3 new natural color additives for food products, a development that aligns with national efforts to phase out artificial, petroleum-based dyes. This move is part of a broader initiative led by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., who is prioritizing the transition to safer, more natural food ingredients in the United States. The newly approved color additives include Galgeria Extract Blue, derived from red algae, butterfly pea flower extract, and calcium phosphate, enhancing the variety of safe color options available to food manufacturers. Galgeria extract blue provides a stable blue hue suitable for acidic environments, while butterfly pea flower extract can produce a range of vibrant shades, and calcium phosphate offers a white color for specific food items. This shift comes amid increasing regulations against synthetic dyes due to health concerns, such as potential cancer risks and neurobehavioral issues. The FDA's decision follows ongoing industry pressures and state-level restrictions, reflecting a growing consumer preference for natural ingredients. However, experts note that the transition is fraught with challenges, including increased costs and supply chain complexities that could affect product availability in grocery stores. The Environmental Working Group emphasizes that while the approval of these natural dyes is a positive step, there remains a significant concern over other harmful ingredients that the FDA has yet to address. As the industry adapts, consumers may need to adjust to the less vibrant hues expected from these natural alternatives, marking a significant change in the food landscape. A Soviet-era spacecraft has reportedly fallen from orbit after decades adrift in space, highlighting the complexities and risks associated with space debris management in our increasingly crowded orbit. This event underscores the ongoing need for international cooperation and safety standards in space exploration, as more nations and private entities enter the arena. The spacecraft, known as Cosmos 482, was launched in March 1972 as part of the Soviet Union's efforts to study Venus. However, it failed to reach its intended transfer orbit and became trapped in Earth's orbit, where it remained until its re-entry early Saturday morning. According to the European Space Agency, the capsule re-entered the Earth's atmosphere around 9:24 a.m. Moscow time, ultimately splashing down in the Indian Ocean west of Jakarta, Indonesia. Despite its lengthy wait in orbit, the potential for a hazardous landing on dry land was carefully monitored due to the object's unusual design, which had originally aimed for a harsh environment on Venus. Space debris experts had anticipated the uncontrolled descent of Cosmos 482, as its re-entry path was complicated by various unpredictable factors, including space weather. However, experts expressed that the object did not pose a significant risk to people on the ground. Cosmos 482 was part of the Soviet Venera program that successfully sent multiple probes to Venus during the space race. While commercial activity in space has surged, raising concerns of collision and debris, advancements in safety measures have also improved since the era of Cosmos 482. Still, this incident serves as a reminder of the challenges posed by objects lingering in orbit, and the importance of robust management systems as the number of satellites and debris continues to grow. New joint immigration enforcement operations between local law enforcement and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or IC, have sparked significant controversy in Nashville, Tennessee. This development resonates nationally as it underscores the ongoing debate over immigration policy in the United States and the role state and local authorities play in federal immigration enforcement. Last week, the Tennessee Highway Patrol collaborated with IC in a series of operations leading to dozens of arrests for immigration violations. The joint initiative reportedly resulted in 1,120 arrests across Florida, highlighting the aggressive approach toward immigration enforcement endorsed by the Trump administration. In Tennessee, authorities conducted 588 traffic stops, which yielded 103 individuals in custody, many facing immigration investigations. In addition, the Highway Patrol reported that these stops also led to the seizure of illegal drugs and firearms, framing the operation as a public safety measure. Among those detained was an individual wanted for homicide in El Salvador. The backdrop to these operations includes recent legislative changes in Tennessee, where Governor Bill Lee signed a law establishing a division of immigration enforcement within the state's Department of Safety and Homeland Security. This move is part of a broader trend among Republican officials to leverage state resources in support of federal immigration policies. However, Nashville's city officials, representing a Democratic stronghold, have expressed their disapproval and surprise at the operations. Law Director Wally Dietz emphasized that the city was not involved in the joint efforts with ICs, which had caught many in local government off guard. He confirmed that city police presence outside the ICE's office followed routine requests for extra patrols, but lacked transparency regarding specific detentions. Critics, including immigrant rights advocates, assert that the patrols disproportionately target communities of color, fueling fears of racial profiling. Lisa Sherman Luna, executive director of the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, characterized these operations as targeting vulnerable populations and argued that many individuals detained might qualify for legal relief if provided adequate representation at immigration hearings. The immigrant population in the Nashville metropolitan area is significant, composed of many individuals from Mexico, Honduras, and Kurdish backgrounds, as well as refugees from various countries. As this situation unfolds, it raises crucial questions about immigration enforcement tactics, community safety, and the rights of immigrants in the United States. The alarming drop in cargo shipments from China to key West Coast ports is raising serious concerns about the impact of ongoing trade tensions. Recent reports indicate that, for the first time since the pandemic, no cargo vessels departed China for the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach within a 12-hour period. This comes on the heels of President Trump's newly imposed tariffs on imports, which have significantly affected trade dynamics with one of America's most critical partners. Just 6 days prior, 41 vessels were scheduled to make the journey to the San Pedro Bay complex, which includes both major Californian ports. Now, as the Port of Long Beach faces a staggering 35 to 40% drop in cargo volume, and the Port of Los Angeles reports a 31% decrease, officials are expressing alarm. Mario Cordero, CEO of the Port of Long Beach, emphasized the seriousness of the situation, stating that the numbers reflect a downturn beyond what was experienced during the pandemic. The trade environment has become increasingly unstable, with most goods from China subjected to tariffs exceeding 145%, while American exports to China face a 125% tariff. In response to these pressures, trade representatives from both nations are scheduled to meet in Geneva this weekend for critical negotiations aimed at de-escalating the trade war. Amidst this backdrop, President Trump hinted at possibly lowering tariffs to 80%, though final decisions will rest with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. For consumers, rising prices and potential shortages loom on the horizon. Cordero noted that without a swift resolution, the effects of this trade war will soon become evident on retail shelves, possibly leading to empty aisles within the next month. Notably, China accounted for over 63% of the cargo flowing into the Port of Long Beach, a significant decrease from 72% in 2016, as businesses begin to seek alternatives amid ongoing trade uncertainties. The world's second-largest shipping line, Maersk, corroborated these trends, reporting a 30 to 40% decline in cargo volume between the U.S. and China. As the situation unfolds, the implications of these trade developments are poised to affect not just port operations, but the broader U.S. economy as well. Authorities in Japan have made a significant arrest on a holiday island, highlighting ongoing concerns regarding the illegal trafficking of wildlife. This incident underscores the global challenges associated with wildlife protection and the illegal trade that threatens ecosystems. On Wednesday, police on the Amami Islands, located near Okinawa, detained 3 Chinese nationals after discovering thousands of protected hermit crabs concealed in their luggage. The suspects, identified as 24-year-old Liao Jirbin, 26-year-old Song Zinao, and 27-year-old Guo Jiawei, were reportedly carrying 160 kilograms, or approximately 353 pounds, of these live crustaceans when they were arrested. The situation came to light when a hotel worker noticed unusual sounds emanating from one of the suitcases, prompting them to alert environmental authorities. Upon inspection, officers found hermit crabs stuffed into 6 suitcases, leading to the arrest of the 3 men for possessing the animals without the necessary permits. The exact reasons for transporting the crabs remain unclear, but authorities are investigating further. These hermit crabs are classified as national natural monuments in Japan, reflecting their cultural and scientific importance, and are protected under Japanese law. The Amami archipelago is renowned for its rich biodiversity, making the preservation of its native species crucial to maintaining the ecological balance. This case serves as a reminder of the need for vigilance in safeguarding endangered wildlife from exploitation. Clarksdale, Mississippi, a city known for its profound cultural heritage and as a setting for the film Sinners, is facing a unique challenge in its quest to host a local screening of the film. The absence of a local Cineplex has prompted community organizer Tyler Yarbrough and Clarksdale Mayor Chuck Espy to reach out to the filmmakers and studio to bring a screening to their city, emphasizing the importance of accessibility to the arts for communities that have lost cultural venues. Yarbrough recently sat down with CNN's Victor Blackwell to discuss this initiative, which aims to foster a dialogue around the film and its themes. He noted the significant distance residents must travel to access entertainment, stating that it took him an hour and a half to reach the nearest theater showing Sinners. Mayor Espy highlighted the depopulation and economic challenges that have led to the closure of Clarksdale's 2 movie theaters, pushing many community gatherings and family-centered events toward Memphis, approximately 80 miles away. Both Yarbrough and Espy expressed high hopes for the event, mentioning ongoing discussions with Warner Brothers executives, the studio behind Sinners. While no official plans have been confirmed, Yarbrough indicated that conversations have been promising, and they are looking to host the event sometime between now and Juneteenth. Espy conveyed his aspiration to attract cast members to Clarksdale, hoping that the event will not only showcase the film, but also spark meaningful conversations about the rich cultural legacy of the Mississippi Delta. Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, has received acclaim and box office success, portraying 1930s Mississippi as a vibrant hub for blues music. The film's themes resonate deeply in Clarksdale, a city that espouses a legacy celebrated by visitors from around the world, eager to experience its musical roots. Yarbrough envisions the screening as an opportunity for community engagement, inviting the cast to experience Clarksdale's current cultural offerings, including its iconic juke joints and museums dedicated to blues history. As discussions continue, the potential screening of Sinners represents not only a chance for local residents to connect with contemporary cinema, but also an affirmation of Clarksdale's enduring significance in the narrative of American music and culture. CNN has reached out to Warner Brothers Pictures for further comment regarding the proposed event. Former Panamanian President Ricardo Martinelli has left the Nicaraguan embassy in Panama City, where he sought refuge for over a year following a court ruling that upheld a 10-year sentence for money laundering. This development matters significantly as it highlights ongoing issues of political asylum and the complexities of international law concerning former leaders facing criminal charges. On Saturday, Panama's foreign ministry confirmed that Colombian President Gustavo Petro granted Martinelli political asylum, facilitating his safe passage to Colombia. The Colombian government emphasized its commitment to upholding international law and asylum protocols through a formal note to Panamanian President José Raúl Mulino. Martinelli, who served as Panama's president from 2009 to 2014, oversaw a period of significant economic growth yet faced deep-rooted allegations of corruption throughout his administration. Following his 2023 conviction linked to financial misconduct involving a publishing group, Martinelli sought asylum after his appeal was denied, effectively barring him from pursuing a second presidential term for which he had secured his party's nomination. This incident reflects broader themes of political strife, governance, and legal accountability in the region. Rumeza Osterk, a Tufts University doctoral student, has returned to Massachusetts after being detained for 6 weeks by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or IC. Her case highlights ongoing concerns around government actions against individuals voicing dissent regarding foreign policy, particularly in relation to the conflict in Gaza. Osterk's ordeal began when she was taken by masked agents near her home, following the Trump administration's directive to target individuals, including students, who supported pro-Palestinian views. On Friday, a federal judge ordered her release, stating there was a lack of evidence to support her detention, which had raised substantial constitutional questions regarding her right to free speech. During a news conference at Boston Logan International Airport on Saturday, Osterk expressed her gratitude for the community's support and her eagerness to resume her academic pursuits, underscoring the emotional toll her detention had taken on her and her family. Her attorney remarked on the wider implications of her case, emphasizing the chilling effect such actions can have on free speech rights in the United States. Osterk, who is currently pursuing her doctoral studies under a valid student visa, was targeted following a critical op-ed she co-authored last year about her university's response to the Gaza conflict. Her release came after a court hearing revealed no substantial claims against her, marking a significant moment for advocates of free speech and due process rights. The broader context involves increasing scrutiny of the government's approach to dissent and the treatment of international students in light of political beliefs. As she reintegrates into her academic life, Ozturk will continue to challenge her detention in court, indicating that her legal battle is far from over. The case reflects not only the individual struggle of one student, but also the significant implications for civil liberties across the United States. A 4.1 magnitude earthquake struck approximately 30 miles south of Knoxville, Tennessee, early Saturday morning, reverberating across several states in the southeastern United States. This event has raised concerns over seismic activity in a region that, while not known for large earthquakes, has experienced moderate shocks in the past. The earthquake occurred just after 9 a.m. and registered at a depth of about 15 miles. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, it affected a wide swath, with reports of shaking felt as far away as Chattanooga, Tennessee, to Atlanta, Georgia, as well as Asheville, North Carolina, and Greenville, South Carolina. USGS spokeswoman Aisha Davis noted that over 30,000 people submitted reports within the first hour, indicating the extensive reach of the tremor. Geologically, the eastern United States experiences seismic waves that travel more efficiently than those in the western portion of the country, leading to a larger area feeling the impact of such quakes. In this instance, there is a reported 5% likelihood of an aftershock of magnitude 4 or greater occurring within the next week, according to USGS operational aftershock forecasts. The Eastern Tennessee Seismic Zone, which runs through Tennessee and into northwestern Georgia and northeastern Alabama, is recognized as one of the most seismically active regions in the southeast. While significant earthquakes have been rare there, historical data reveals that some previous quakes have resulted in minor damage. This most recent earthquake serves as a reminder of the geological dynamics at play, even in areas where larger seismic events are relatively infrequent. The compelling tale of the infamous Alcatraz prison escape continues to resonate in American culture, with recent discussions reigniting interest in the events of June 11, 1962, when 3 inmates, Frank Morris and brothers Clarence and John Anglin, executed an audacious escape plan that has left many questioning the prison's legendary reputation as escape-proof. On that fateful night, the inmates used their ingenuity to pry open holes in their cell walls and fashioned a makeshift raft from raincoats. After navigating through a complex system of ventilation ducts, they made their way onto the prison roof and into the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay. Despite exhaustive searches and years of investigation, Morris and the Anglin brothers were never found, leading some, including their family, to believe they successfully reached shore and lived out their lives in hiding. The background of the escape is equally intriguing. The Anglin brothers, alongside Morris, were transferred to Alcatraz due to their persistent attempts to escape from earlier facilities. Their history of thefts, motivated in part by a desire for a better life, culminated in their imprisonment at the notorious Rock following a failed breakout from Leavenworth Prison. The meticulous planning of their escape, involving creating dummy heads to deceive guards, showcased their resourcefulness and determination. In the decades since their disappearance, evidence suggesting the possibility of their survival has continued to emerge, including a postcard allegedly sent by one of the escapees, and findings from researchers who modeled tidal patterns that indicated a viable route to safety. However, the FBI officially closed its investigation, declaring the men presumed dead after exhaustive inquiries yielded no concrete evidence of their survival. The impact of their escape didn't just affect the inmates, it led to a shift in U.S. prison policy. The notorious prison was permanently closed in 1963, following a commitment from then Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy that the costly facility had outlived its necessity. Recently, discussions surrounding the possibility of reopening Alcatraz have surfaced, with proponents asserting its historical significance. Former President Donald Trump highlighted its importance in the national conversation about law and order, suggesting a potential revival of its operational status as a prison. As the debate unfolds, the story of Morris and the Anglin brothers remains a captivating chapter in America's criminal history, emblematic of both the lengths to which individuals will go for freedom and the enduring allure of one of the country's most infamous institutions. 5 fishermen, 3 from Peru and 2 from Colombia, have been rescued after spending 55 harrowing days adrift at sea, highlighting the perils that fishermen face in their line of work. This ordeal emphasizes the need for national and international support systems for maritime safety, particularly in regions prone to oceanic obstacles. The Ecuadorian Navy reported that the fishermen were located on May 7 by a tuna boat named Aldo, having been missing since mid-March. Just 2 days into their journey from Pucusana Bay near Lima, the fishermen reported significant damage to their boat's alternator, which resulted in the failure of both communication and navigation equipment. Frigate Captain Maria Ferres of the Ecuadorian Navy shared with the Associated Press that the fishermen faced severe conditions, lacking power for essential functions such as lights and the starter. In their struggle for survival, they resorted to drinking rusted water from the engine, catching passing fish, and boiling them for sustenance, along with drinking rainwater and seawater. Currently, the fishermen are reported to be in stable condition, and the Ecuadorian Navy is collaborating with local and foreign authorities to facilitate their safe return to Peru and Colombia. This event is reminiscent of another recent case where a Peruvian fisherman, Maximo Napa, survived alone at sea for 95 days earlier this year before being rescued, underscoring the continuing risks faced by those at sea. The race for the Senate seat in Maine is intensifying, with significant implications for both parties as Democrats seek a viable challenger to Republican Senator Susan Collins. This race matters not only for the state but nationally, as Collins is seen as a key swing vote in the narrowly divided Senate, impacting legislative agendas for the next term. Senator Collins, who has been in the Senate for 28 years, has proven to be a formidable incumbent, successfully defending her seat against Democratic challengers in hard-fought campaigns. As of now, she has yet to formally announce her decision for a sixth term. In an interview, Collins indicated her intention to run, stating, "It's certainly my inclination to run and I am preparing to do so." However, her official announcement remains pending, leaving Democrats in a state of anticipation as they consider their options. The stakes are high for the Democratic Party, which is optimistic about flipping Collins' seat, particularly if she decides not to run again. High-profile candidates like Governor Janet Mills and Representative Jared Golden are being closely watched, though both have expressed hesitation about challenging Collins. Mills has downplayed her interest in the race, while Golden, who previously worked for Collins, faces a unique dilemma due to their past professional ties. His responses indicate uncertainty about a potential run, further complicating Democrats' strategy. Democratic leaders, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, are actively seeking strong candidates, while also monitoring other contenders like Jordan Wood, a novice candidate with a focus on pro-democracy advocacy. The dynamics of the race are further complicated by Collins' intricate relationship with former President Trump, who remains a polarizing figure that could influence voter sentiment in Maine. As Republican efforts to secure Collins' seat strengthen, former Governor Paul LePage's entry into the House race adds another layer to the competitive landscape. Republican leaders express confidence that they can reclaim the House seat in Maine's 2nd District, regardless of Golden's future decisions. In a political climate where every seat counts towards control of Congress, the unfolding events in Maine serve as a crucial bellwether for national trends ahead of the midterm elections. The news continues. Soundly Human Newsroom starts in 60 seconds.
Live from the Soundly Human Newsroom in the AWS cloud, this is Soundly Human Newsroom with Ruth Sterling.
Welcome to Soundly Human Newsroom. I am Ruth Sterling. We begin with a significant legal and political discourse surrounding the Trump administration and its recent discussions on the potential suspension of habeas corpus, a legal measure that allows individuals to challenge their detention in court. This matter is critical as it touches on constitutional rights and the administration's broader strategy regarding immigration enforcement. According to sources familiar with the discussions, President Trump has been directly involved in contemplating this suspension, with top aide Stephen Miller confirming that the administration is actively looking at the implications of such a move. Notably, although Trump has avoided explicitly mentioning habeas corpus in public discourse, his previous comments suggest this route is under serious consideration as a response to judicial pushback against his deportation policies. Legal experts warn that suspending habeas corpus could lead to significant legal challenges and might undermine essential due process protections, fundamentally altering the legal landscape for migrants and detainees. As this situation develops, it remains to be seen how the White House will proceed and what implications it may have for the courts and the constitutional order. Cassie Ventura's ongoing legal battle against her former partner Sean Diddy Combs highlights critical issues surrounding domestic violence and the challenges victims face in seeking justice. As allegations against Combs continue to mount, the ramifications extend beyond individual circumstances, stirring conversations on accountability within the entertainment industry and the support available for survivors. In November 2023, Ventura filed a lawsuit against Combs, detailing years of alleged abuse. Although the two settled quickly, the fallout led to a series of civil lawsuits and a federal criminal indictment against Combs in the following 18 months. He faces charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking, all of which he has denied. Notably, Ventura, identified as Victim 1 in the indictment, has decided to testify under her own name, marking a significant choice as she approaches potential witness testimony during the trial starting early next week. Ventura and Combs's tumultuous relationship, which spanned from 2007 to 2018, is central to the charges against him. Combs' defense team has stated they intend to argue that mutual violence occurred in their interactions. The prosecution, however, plans to present hotel surveillance footage from 2016 that reportedly depicts Combs physically assaulting Ventura. This evidence may play a pivotal role in affirming Ventura's experiences, countering narratives from some of Combs' supporters who have framed her as simply a disgruntled ex-partner. In her 2023 suit, Ventura expressed the enduring emotional distress she continues to experience. In past statements, she emphasized the importance of believing victims, highlighting the personal toll of domestic violence. Since her departure from the spotlight that came with her relationship with Combs, Ventura has gradually shared moments of her life on social media, including her happiness in a new marriage to personal trainer Alex Fine, with whom she has 2 daughters and is expecting a 3rd child. As Ventura prepares to take the stand, the outcome of this case may not only influence her future, but also impact broader discussions on how society addresses domestic violence, survivor support, and accountability for abusers in high-profile positions. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has emphasized the critical nature of upcoming talks with Iran, warning that unproductive discussions could lead to a significant shift in diplomatic strategy. This matter holds importance not only for regional stability, but also for global non-proliferation efforts. In an interview ahead of this Sunday's high-level talks in Oman, Witkoff stated that the discussions must yield tangible results to continue. Reflecting on previous negotiations, he noted that the U.S. refrained from scheduling another round last week, underscoring the necessity of reaching mutual understandings with Iran. Witkoff articulated the U.S. stance, declaring, "An enrichment program can never exist in the state of Iran ever again." He specified that this entails dismantling Iran's enrichment facilities, including Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan, framing these measures as a non-negotiable red line. Iran's response has been firm, with Foreign Minister Abbas Arashi asserting the nation's right to a complete nuclear fuel cycle. He is expected to meet Witkoff during the discussions. The dynamics of the negotiations suggest a focused dialogue solely on the nuclear issue, a shift from broader discussions that characterized previous U.S. administrations. Witkoff hinted at the possibility of incentives for Iran aimed at fostering improved relations, stating, "We're inviting Iran to be a member of the League of Nations." However, while the primary focus remains on the nuclear agenda, Witkoff acknowledged that there are concerns regarding Iran's involvement with groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. He described these issues as secondary to the urgent need for a resolution on nuclear capabilities. As the situation develops, the outcome of these talks could have significant implications for international security and diplomatic relations. A diver has tragically lost his life during salvage operations to recover the sunken superyacht of British tech tycoon Mike Lynch off the coast of northern Sicily. This incident not only underscores the perils associated with underwater recovery efforts, but also renews interest in a maritime tragedy that claimed multiple lives last year. The diver was engaged in preliminary operations to lift the 56-meter-long Bayesian, which sank after a powerful downburst struck the vessel while it was moored near the small port of Porticello in August 2022. The fierce weather event was responsible for the deaths of 7 individuals, including Lynch and his daughter, Hannah. According to local police, the diver's death occurred underwater on Friday, and the exact cause has not been established. Reports indicate that he was a 39-year-old Dutch national employed by the Netherlands-based salvage company Hebo Maritime Service. It's believed he was struck by a metal object while divers were cutting the boom from the wreckage. The recovery effort to raise the Bayesian from the seabed is slated to commence later this month. The event aims to clarify the circumstances surrounding the disappearance of the reportedly unsinkable vessel. TMC Marine, the UK-based consultancy overseeing the salvage operation, confirmed the death, emphasizing that an investigation is ongoing. A spokesperson stated that all involved parties are cooperating with authorities, and that they are providing support to the salvage team during this difficult time, extending their condolences to the family of the deceased. Jeff Bridges is reporting positive news regarding his health after a challenging battle with lymphoma. This story not only highlights Bridges' personal journey, but also resonates with many facing serious health conditions, particularly in a world still grappling with the long-term effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. In a recent interview with People, the acclaimed actor revealed that he is feeling very good nearly 5 years after his cancer diagnosis. Bridges acknowledged that distinguishing between the impacts of his cancer and lingering COVID symptoms can be difficult, noting some memory issues he believes are related to long COVID. However, he expressed gratitude for his medical team, stating that his prognosis remains optimistic. Bridges detailed his health journey, recalling how his cancer mass had shrunk significantly to the size of a marble during his treatments. He also opened up about his experience with COVID-19, which he contracted while undergoing chemotherapy. He described the illness as a more formidable challenge than cancer, emphasizing that despite moments of pain, he ultimately felt joyous throughout his recovery. Beyond his health updates, Bridges recently completed filming for the FX series The Old Man, and is set to return to the big screen in the upcoming 3rd installment of the Tron franchise, slated for release later this year. 5 European countries have announced their intention to withdraw from the Ottawa Treaty, which bans the use of anti-personnel landmines, citing escalating threats from Russia as their primary justification. This decision has significant implications both regionally and globally, as it signals a potential shift in military strategy among nations facing security concerns. Finland, Poland, Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania are the nations taking this step, with their proximity to Russia influencing their security calculations. The Ottawa Treaty, signed in 1997, was a cornerstone agreement aimed at eliminating the production and use of these indiscriminate weapons, which have caused countless civilian casualties worldwide. Critics have expressed profound concern that the reintroduction of landmines could reverse years of international progress toward disarmament. The decision follows a joint statement made earlier this year by Poland and the 3 Baltic states, arguing that the current security climate necessitates a re-evaluation of acceptable military practices. In April, Latvia became the first of these countries to formally withdraw, leading Finland to quickly follow suit, with Prime Minister Petteri Orpo highlighting the need to adapt to shifting security dynamics posed by Russia. Human rights organizations have sharply criticized these developments. Amnesty International has described Finland's withdrawal as a disturbing step backwards that endangers civilian lives and violates decades of international humanitarian progress. They emphasize that landmines do not differentiate between soldiers and civilians, leading to deaths and injuries long after conflicts have ended. As the situation evolves, these nations maintain that they will adhere to their humanitarian principles while reintroducing landmines into their military arsenals. Yet, the global community remains alarmed at this apparent shift, fearing a future where these dangerous weapons may again proliferate in conflict zones, affecting civilian populations disproportionately. The outcome of this reevaluation of military doctrine in light of regional threats will likely have far-reaching implications for international security and humanitarian norms. Operations have returned to normal at Newark Liberty International Airport, following a significant air traffic control equipment outage that prompted a brief ground stop for incoming flights. This incident highlights the ongoing challenges within the U.S. air traffic control system, impacting both travelers and airlines nationwide. The Federal Aviation Administration reported a telecommunications issue at the Philadelphia-Traken Area C, which directs aircraft operations into Newark's airspace. As a precautionary measure, the FAA implemented a ground stop that temporarily halted departures bound for Newark, lasting approximately 45 minutes. Fortunately, no flights were diverted, though FlightAware reported about 67 delays and 79 cancellations at the airport by 11 a.m. on Sunday. This outage follows a separate disruption experienced just days earlier, when a radar and radio outage occurred at the same Philadelphia facility, affecting flights both arriving and departing from Newark. Similar incidents in the past have raised significant safety concerns, such as an April event that led to the trauma leave of several air traffic controllers and resulted in over 1,000 flight cancellations. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy addressed the issue, affirming that Newark Airport remains safe for travel, and mentioning plans to temporarily scale back flight capacity in response to ongoing equipment challenges. He articulated the need for improvements, acknowledging that the existing air traffic control system is outdated. In a bid to modernize the infrastructure, Duffy also announced plans for a direct line from Newark to the Philadelphia-Traken, expected to be completed by the end of summer. To retain staff during this transition, he proposed offering 20% upfront bonuses for air traffic controllers. As the aviation system grapples with these technical issues, officials continue to work on solutions to ensure operational stability and passenger safety moving forward. Former Supreme Court Justice David Souter has died at the age of 85. His passing marks the end of a notable chapter in American judicial history, as Souter's tenure on the court not only influenced landmark decisions, but also reshaped how nominees are vetted for their ideological leanings. Souter's death was announced by the Supreme Court, which stated he passed away peacefully at his New Hampshire home. Details surrounding the cause of his death have not been disclosed. Appointed by President George H.W. Bush in 1990, Souter was initially expected to move the court to the right, yet he consistently sided with its liberal wing during his nearly two-decade tenure, becoming known for his measured legal philosophy and commitment to judicial restraint. Throughout his time on the bench, Souter authored opinions that upheld constitutional guarantees in pivotal cases involving civil rights, affirmative action, and abortion. Notably, he played a crucial role in preserving Roe v. Wade's core principles shortly after his confirmation. His decisions, often grounded in a nuanced understanding of the law, led to a rallying cry from conservatives against future Souter-like appointments, resulting in more stringent ideological criteria for Supreme Court nominees. Chief Justice John Roberts and other justices have paid tribute to Souter, highlighting his wisdom and kindness. Justice Clarence Thomas referred to him as a wonderful colleague, and Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who succeeded him, remarked on his sense of duty to the country. Souter's preference for a quiet, contemplative life was evident both during and after his time on the court. After retiring in 2009, he returned to New Hampshire and continued contributing to the legal community by hearing cases on lower courts while avoiding the Washington spotlight. Born in Massachusetts and raised in New Hampshire, Souter's educational path included Harvard and Oxford, and he began his legal career as the state's Attorney General. He leaves behind a legacy defined not only by his rulings, but also by his approach to the law, emphasizing its real-world implications and the duty of the court to balance competing constitutional values. Souter's commitment to a more civil discourse on the bench and in public life resonates today as the nation reflects on his significant contributions to American jurisprudence. May's full moon, popularly known as the flower moon, will shine brightly in the night sky on Sunday evening, captivating stargazers across the United States and around the world. This lunar event carries significance not only for its beauty, but also for its connection to seasonal changes and cultural traditions. Although the full moon technically peaks at 12:56 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, it will appear full on both Sunday and Monday evenings. The flower moon will rise low in the southeast after sunset on Monday, gradually ascending to its highest point in the sky after midnight. This particular full moon is noteworthy as it is classified as a micromoon, taking place when the moon is at its greatest distance from Earth, 251,939 miles away, causing it to appear smaller than a typical full moon. The name flower moon is derived from the abundance of blossoms that characterize May. Indigenous tribes across North America have their own unique names for this lunar phase, reflecting their cultural heritage. The Creek and Choctaw people refer to it as the mulberry moon, while the Cree call it the frog moon. The Anishinaabe tribe designates it as the blossom moon, and the Apache recognize it as the moon that rises during the season when leaves turn green. This marks the final micromoon of the year, with 7 more full moons on the calendar for 2025, including notable supermoons in October, November, and December. As we look forward, September will bring 2 significant celestial events: a total lunar eclipse visible from parts of Europe, Africa, and Asia on the 7th and 8th, and a partial solar eclipse on the 21st. The total lunar eclipse, known for giving the moon a reddish hue or blood moon appearance, occurs when Earth aligns perfectly between the sun and the moon. Conversely, the partial solar eclipse will create a crescent shape as the moon partially blocks the sun, an event best observed from more remote locations. These astronomical occurrences not only enhance our appreciation for the night sky, but also serve as reminders of the diverse ways cultures around the world celebrate and interpret the beauty of our celestial neighbors. A federal judge has issued a temporary restraining order halting the Trump administration's plans for mass layoffs and major reorganizations of federal agencies. This order, which comes amidst a broader conversation about government efficiency and personnel management, carries significant implications for the future of federal employment and the functioning of governmental agencies nationwide. Senior District Judge Susan Ilston granted this order following arguments from federal employee unions, local governments, and organizations that rely on federal services. They contended that the administration was exceeding its legal authority through a February executive order aimed at conducting mass firings and restructuring within agencies. Judge Ilston emphasized that while presidents do possess the authority to make changes to government operations, any large-scale reorganizations must involve cooperation from Congress. The judge's ruling specifically blocks the approval and implementation of the administration's agency and reorganization plans, or ARRPs, which would have facilitated extensive personnel cuts across multiple federal departments, including agriculture, commerce, and health and human services. Furthermore, Ilston pointed to concerns regarding the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which critics assert has been operating in secrecy to reduce federal spending and personnel without proper oversight or transparency. In a detailed 42-page opinion, Judge Ilston highlighted that no statute grants DOGE or other agencies the authority to direct mass terminations or reorganizations. The ramifications of this order reflect a significant legal setback for the administration, as the Justice Department has signaled its intent to appeal. However, the judge declined immediate procedural requests that would have expedited the appeal process. The order mandates the administration to submit its reduction plans by Tuesday and to inform the court of its compliance efforts. Advocate groups expressed satisfaction with the ruling, asserting it safeguards against unlawful actions. The outcome of this case may potentially have far-reaching effects, and could soon be reviewed by the Supreme Court, marking a crucial moment in the ongoing legal battles over executive power and federal employment practices. President Donald Trump has indicated a willingness to consider tax increases on wealthy Americans to help finance a large tax and spending package proposed by Republicans. This development is significant as it represents a potential shift within GOP discussions, and could have widespread implications for fiscal policy and the party's positioning ahead of future elections. In a Truth Social post, Trump stated he would graciously accept even a tiny tax increase for the affluent, recognizing the contentious political ramifications such a move could entail. House Republicans are currently grappling with the challenge of identifying $1.5 trillion in spending cuts to balance the costs of proposed tax reductions, which could run into the trillions. Trump emphasized the political risks, referencing former President George H.W. Bush's infamous Read My Lips pledge, while also suggesting that he would support letting tax cuts expire for individuals earning over $2.5 million and couples making over $5 million. This is not the first time Trump has hinted at raising taxes on the wealthy, despite his previous campaign promises to decrease their tax burdens. Recently, he expressed his support for concepts that would raise taxes on high earners, and has faced pushback from factions within the Republican Party concerning such proposals. The House Ways and Means Committee has been debating various strategies for funding, including allowing certain tax breaks for high-income earners to expire, which could yield significant revenue, but is seen as politically risky by some lawmakers. As negotiations continue, the challenges of balancing tax policy and expenditure cuts will play a crucial role in shaping the final legislation. The proposed tax changes, if enacted, promise to impact not just wealth distribution, but also the overall economic landscape, as Republicans weigh their strategies amidst diverse opinions within their ranks. A ceasefire between India and Pakistan appears to be holding following the deadliest clashes in decades that were ignited by a massacre of tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir last month. This truce is significant not only for the two nuclear-armed neighboring states, but also for regional stability and international security, as tensions have long threatened to escalate into broader conflict. The renewed violence began with a shooting attack on April 26, which left at least 26 dead, prompting India to launch military operations against Pakistan. As fears of further escalation grew, both sides initiated cross-border strikes, resulting in numerous casualties. However, a surprise announcement of a ceasefire came from U.S. President Donald Trump on Saturday, who claimed credit for mediating the agreement, praising the leaders of both countries for their decision to halt hostilities. Contradictory narratives have emerged regarding the extent of U.S. involvement in fostering the ceasefire. While Trump claimed that his administration played a critical role in securing the truce, Indian officials have emphasized that the agreement was reached directly between the two countries, downplaying Washington's role. Meanwhile, Pakistani officials have expressed gratitude for the U.S. leadership, signaling divergent perspectives from the two nations on international intervention. The ceasefire comes at a crucial time, considering the recent violence has strained diplomatic relations further, with both nations accusing one another of violating agreements. Despite initial reports of skirmishes after the ceasefire, current reports indicate that the agreement is being upheld, with no fresh missile strikes noted. Analysts highlight the complex nature of India-Pakistan relations, shaped by mutual distrust, contrasting national identities, and Pakistan's call for international mediation, which India traditionally resists. As both countries navigate this fragile peace, the broader implications for regional security will be closely monitored, with the international community hopeful that this ceasefire may lead to constructive dialogue and a resolution to the long-standing Kashmir dispute. The confrontation between Democratic lawmakers and the Department of Homeland Security reached a dramatic peak on Friday in Newark, New Jersey, underscoring the intense national debate surrounding immigration policy and oversight of federal facilities. This clash raises significant questions about congressional authority and the treatment of detainees within ICE facilities. The incident unfolded as three members of Congress attempted to enter an immigration customs and enforcement facility. Their efforts were met with resistance from DHS officers, particularly after Newark Mayor Ras Baraka tried to join them and was subsequently detained for several hours. As tensions escalated, physical confrontations occurred, resulting in lawmakers and officers pushing each other amidst the chaos. Baraka was released later that day. Under the Annual Appropriations Act, members of Congress hold the right to access facilities operated by the Department of Homeland Security for oversight purposes, and are not required to provide prior notice of their visits. A spokesperson for Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman confirmed that the lawmakers had been granted access to inspect the facility early in the afternoon. In response to the encounter, however, a DHS spokesperson claimed that lawmakers had illegally stormed the facility and suggested that charges could be forthcoming against them. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin characterized the event as a bizarre political stunt that jeopardized safety for both law enforcement and detainees. Watson-Coleman contested these claims, asserting that the lawmakers did not engage in any unlawful entry. DHS has since indicated that it possesses video evidence potentially implicating the lawmakers in physical altercations with IC officers, which could lead to further legal actions. During a subsequent interview, McLaughlin reiterated that ongoing investigations could result in the arrest of congressional members, specifically highlighting the serious nature of the allegations. The released footage showcases not only the arrest of Mayor Baraka but also instances where lawmakers attempted to push past federal agents. Following his release, Baraka defended his actions, emphasizing his role as an elected official advocating for the rights of detainees and his community. This incident encapsulates the growing tensions and complex dynamics between legislative oversight and enforcement agencies, reflecting the broader national discourse on immigration practices and accountability. The repercussions from this confrontation may have lasting implications for interactions between Congress and federal agencies moving forward. A significant communications failure at Newark Liberty International Airport has raised serious concerns about air traffic safety and operations. This incident not only affected hundreds of flights but also highlights vulnerabilities in the nation's air traffic control system. On April 28, Newark approach controllers experienced a loss of communication and radar capabilities for approximately 90 minutes, impacting at least 16 commercial flights. Data analysis by CNN indicates that 8 of these planes were diverted to nearby airports, as controllers could not track their positions or communicate with pilots. The incident led to chaotic flight paths, with several aircraft flying in oval-shaped loops at varying altitudes across the region before safely landing at other airports, including JFK and Stewart International. This communications failure was part of a disturbing pattern. It marks one of at least 3 such incidents since the Federal Aviation Administration relocated Newark's air traffic controllers from a Long Island facility to a new site in Philadelphia. Notably, a subsequent outage occurred on May 9, during which radar capabilities were lost for roughly 90 seconds. Newark, one of the busiest airports in the country, typically handles over 500 departures daily, underscoring the significant impact of these disruptions, with hundreds of flights canceled in the days following the original failure. Air traffic safety officials and regulators may face mounting scrutiny as investigations continue into the underlying causes of these communication breakdowns and their broader implications for air travel safety nationwide. Concerns are mounting in Washington as lawmakers face a crucial deadline to address the national debt ceiling, with just months left to prevent a historic default on U.S. obligations. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has issued a stark warning to congressional leaders, emphasizing the urgency of acting swiftly to safeguard the full faith and credit of the United States. In a letter sent to Congress, Bessent indicated that there is a reasonable probability that the cash and extraordinary measures currently employed by the Treasury will be exhausted by August, coinciding with a planned legislative recess. This timeframe places increased pressure on Republican lawmakers, who hold the majority in Congress, to advance their significant budget reconciliation bill. This legislation not only aims to raise the debt ceiling but also intends to extend the tax cuts established in 2017 and implement substantial federal spending cuts. The serious implications of a potential default cannot be overstated. It could trigger significant global economic instability. Secretary Bessent noted that the nation reached its approximately $36 trillion debt ceiling on January 21, which has necessitated the use of extraordinary measures to meet financial obligations. Failure to lift the debt ceiling would result in the United States being unable to borrow needed funds, a scenario with far-reaching consequences. GOP leaders in the House, including Speaker Mike Johnson, acknowledged the critical nature of the situation, with warnings about the unknown timing of the X-date, the point at which default could occur. Johnson stated at an Axios event in late April that preparations are underway to address this development, expressing the necessity of acting before the time runs out. However, internal divisions remain among Republican ranks regarding the best approach to tackle all objectives within the proposed bill. As the legislative clock ticks down, the stakes have never been higher for both the U.S. economy and international markets, as lawmakers grapple with the imperative to devise a unifying strategy that secures enough Republican support to pass through both chambers. Pope Leo XIV has made a significant impact on the global stage.